What's up, gamers? I'm ANZE, and today I'm gonna be breaking down a 7-Eleven remix of my song Ricochet. Also, hi, it's me, I'm 7-Eleven. I guess I should explain. Basically, I'm working on an album, and that's not gonna come out for a while, but it's important music. It's kind of like pretty and emotional, and it's still like electro house, but it means a lot more to me. And I kind of want to keep ANZE as a brand more focused and just kind of do more pretty melodic emotional music. You know, think What I Am Now or When the World Almost Came to an End, which is not here on YouTube, but it will be soon. I'm trying to keep ANZE just very melodic and stuff. But I also really love bass music, and I just love making it. Like, it's a lot easier to do. It's just party music, and it's awesome. So I needed an outlet for that, which is what 7-Eleven is. If you're still confused, basically, ANZE is like, and 7-Eleven is more. That makes sense? Good. Moving on. Now, fun fact, this is actually the second 7-Eleven remix of Ricochet. I made an entire other remix, like a basically finished track, a while ago. Yeah, a lot of the elements of that actually stuck around, but in the end, I just wasn't happy with it. This was kind of the first thing I made for the 7-Eleven project, and as I made more, I got a lot better at making bass music, and this just didn't cut it anymore. So I didn't scrap it entirely. I took a lot of parts of it, and I basically just completely reworked it into this. Like, what a glow up, right? So let's start with the intro. There's not a whole lot going on. You can ignore these. These were the references I used for mixing. So it starts with just a few things fading in. I think this right here is just like a bass guitar slide. It's a stem from the original track. It's from also in the very first second of that one. So immediately we've got these drums, which is just a stem from the original. I kind of fade in some more drums for the second half of the intro section. We've got these vocal chops that are a stem from the original too, that I kind of chopped up a little more, I guess. The main thing going on here is this respace, which is, I believe, just a preset I found. We've got a harmony layer that sort of fades in over top of it. We've got what I've called the juicy bass womb, which is just some random bass shot I found on Splice. Then of course, just a bunch of sound effects. Ambience, white noise, cymbals, just stuff to fill the space. We get into the build-up, and the harmony actually does this interesting thing. So I wanted it to fade away, but also be kind of spooky at the same time, so we ended up with a whole bunch of stuff being automated. Yeah, we fade out the respace with sort of a sub-drop. My goal was to make every section transition very smoothly, and you'll see there's some bits of that I'm really proud of later on. Yeah, so like we have this harmony lead, and it doesn't just cut out, it sort of fades away in a creative way. Our respace leaves with a boom. And that does two things, because it adds a little bit of impact to like the transition into the build-up, but it also removes the sub from the build-up, which, you know, makes it feel better when it comes back later at the drop. The drums, it's again just the drum stem from the original using the same buildup. We've also got an amen break sort of chopped up and building on top of that, along with a whole bunch of drum fills stacked on top of each other, and a kick and a snare to hit and sort of end the buildup and go into the pre-drop. We also get some smooth sauce coming in, just little super saw chords, sort of being filtered in. Main melody, actually on sort of the main lead synth from the drop, is here, but just being filtered in with a bunch of automation. It's super washed out, super filtered. And it gets louder. The vocal chops, still from the original, just getting more intense. Sort of just driving it forward with this really dramatic, just like note hold. Whole bunch more effects going on. The ambience layer that I had in the intro, I'm using it as the riser by just pitching it up during the build-up. And then lastly, of course, we've got these like vocal chops.
Turn up the bass, turn up the bass, turn up the bass, turn up the bass line.
And it's building up into the pre-drop vocal here.
Turn up the bass line, keep it going down right.
So this is made up of two different vocal samples. The turn up the bass line and the keep it going down like are two different samples, not even related. I just kind of pitched them around to match each other. I was looking around, I honestly couldn't find the first one, but this is the second bit.
Keep it going down like this!
I literally just looked for like half an hour. I couldn't find the original one. Or I couldn't find the first bit, because this is all like, I put them together in a way earlier version of the project and consolidated it so I could chop it up better. And so it's gone, it's somewhere. But yeah, that's got a lot of stuff going on. It, you know, it originally sounds like,
Turn up the bass line, keep it going down like.
but we've got some EQ, Xvox for Pro for vocal processing, Honks for compression, Omnivox to make it wide, and then RC20 for some nice tube distortion and more compression.
Turn up the bass line, keep it going down like.
I think it sounds pretty cool. I wanted it to be more aggressive for the pre-drop vocal, because the drop's pretty aggressive. And then, obviously, that leads us into the drop.
Turn up the bass line, keep it going down like.
So there's a few things going on here. We're gonna start with the drums. It's just a little house beat on the floor, with like a few drum fills sprinkled in. I really like layering drums, so like I couldn't find the right snare I wanted, so I just took this one and this one, and on top of each other they make the correct snare. We've got a lot of hats going off on, you know, on the offbeat. And they just kind of make the correct sound when layered on top of each other. This kick ride layer, just the 4-on-the-floor ride cymbal, is so important. Like, it makes so much of a difference. Like, it just really fills out the drum layer. Whenever I do this, I always make sure to sidechain it. Just put a quick little, you know, fade in on the beginning, so the transient of it, you know, doesn't mess with the kick. But you'll hear it kind of have that sidechain sound. And that's so it can still sound good with the kick playing over it. Because without it, and it adds this sort of pumpy feeling of the drop. It's a very, very pumpy sidechain here. It's like pretty long delay, like well past the kick. And then the main lead is 2 layers. It was supposed to originally just be this. I made this really cool sound, and it's very wide. It's got a lot of character to the sound, but I had an issue with it where it just didn't have enough mid information, and it was sort of super phasey. So if I mono the master, it really doesn't have the power that I want it to. So I added a second layer that is just kind of right down the middle. This right here. It's just like a weird sine wave with some distortion and compression on a noise going into a sub. I have found that the secret to cool, growly sound design is to just whatever oscillator you're doing for a lead, add a sub that's a sine wave, like a few octaves down, and distort them together, and it will just, because without the sub, it sounds like a mosquito, and it's awful. But the sub, going into this distortion with it, it adds that sort of grit, that like growly sound, So those two together are going into a bus with some OTT, this really crazy EQ, and just a compressor to sort of glue it all together. And that's the lead layer. Now when I, mono the master, I think it just has more to it. And there's a lot going on to this sound, to this main sound. As you can see, I'm doing these pitch bends with automation, and that's doing so much for the sound. But I've also got this, I've got a grit macro. So if I play a note, that's what this does. And I'm automating that all over the place to kind of just give it more character. Without it, see how it just loses all of its character? And then we've got some other layers underneath. There's the fuzzy bass, which is, it's actually, so I made this preset, the grit lead, for a different project, and it's all of these layers are the same patch, basically, just dialed in a little bit differently. So, the main sound, the lead, both lead sounds are the grit lead, and so is this fuzzy bass layer. That's also the grit lead. But I created this tone macro. If I just play a note, this is what this does. It sounds like microphone feedback in a way, but that's being automated in just kind of at the end to add just a little bit of movement. You'll find that's a theme here. I've been trying to do this a lot more and just adding a lot more movement to my synths, because with synths, I think it's too easy to make very static sounds because, well, it's all completely artificial. So you kind of have to make it feel organic manually. So I'm trying to add a lot more movement to my sounds, make things more dynamic and cool. And I think it really worked out for this track. And we've got the sub. I need headphones to hear this one. And the last synth layer is this whoop woom, which is another patch I made for a different project that I'm using the preset for here. It's just coming in every 2 bars to sort of, move between each phrase of the drop. And we've got some reverb coming in and out on it. And for this first hit, it's kind of the fake out drop. The drums aren't really hitting yet. And for that bit, the whoop woom is just full reverb throw. And we have that same bass boom from the build-up, just a little bit louder. The last thing is that, you can probably barely hear this, but there are just these super saw chords coming in on every phrase, along with the whoop boom, just punctuating the phrase basically. And then there's a lot of vocal chop stuff going on. This one, you'll notice this in a lot of coming 7-11 tracks that I really like, just having a little vocal, this tonal little blip, kind of just on quarter notes, driving the drop forward. It really, it's rhythm, it adds ambience, it fills out the space. But there's other layers to it. We got this one. and this one. And these are all the same, you know, vocal stem from the original track, just kind of pitched around with different effects. We also got this bit of a like sauce pad layer, just softly layered over the kind of B part of the call and response drop. Oh yeah, there is another bass. I forgot, because this is a sort of call and response drop. It's doing like an AABA structure. So we bring all the synths in, all the basses in. So we've got this sort of the A section with this main lead sound, doing very long sustained notes. We got this little B section with another bass that, believe it or not, is also the grit lead preset. And that's where these little pads come in. It's barely audible, but it fills it out. And then we go back to the A section with the longer sustained notes, but we keep the new bass also on top to sort of evolve it even more. So it's kind of an AABC structure. And then for the second part, it's the same deal, except there's kind of a second fake out transition, but now it's using the fuzzy bass with the tone just kind of coming up. And for the second part, there's a little bit more automation to the tone macro. But back to the vocal chops, because there's more down here. Down here we've got a bunch of just like woos and haze, just drowning in reverb. I love doing this for ambience and kind of just filling out the space. And we've got some more vocal chops, kind of some of the stuff from the build-up,
Keep it going down like.
and then this new one that's just like this random sample that I pitched and did a bunch of stuff. Let me see if I can find it. So here it is, the original.
Gotta get that dough, gotta get that paper. No, we don't mess with haters if you hate.
It's a whole like rap verse. I kind of just took the first bit of that, they gotta get that, and pitched it around, did some effects. We got this little thing. Very, very subtle, but it's there, and it's kind of driving the like second half of this drop a lot. And honestly, we've got a lot of effect layers, just more noise, risers, downlifters, cymbal crashes. These kinds of layers are really just the hidden gems that kind of bring a track together, I think. We've got some like stadium crowd ambience. It's just, you know, I'm automating the volume. It's kind of just used as a noise layer. It fills out the space, and, well, I seem to have an obsession with filling out the space. You know, it's what I do. And we've got the same ambience layer from the beginning. Also here, again, filling out the space. So, yeah, if we take all the effect and vocal chop layers, you can really get a sense of how much is going on here, sort of behind the main, like, drums and basses. That's really just super filling it out and making it sound full and thick. Yeah, and you know, all that together makes this sick, nasty, super epic sauce drop that I'm very proud of. Yeah, and all that kind of just disappears in the full mix. You don't really notice any one element individually. I think it all just comes together to make a big, melted sound. Then we've also got a second half of that drop. It's a lot of the same elements. The main difference is that we've got a new bass sound, and it's this crazy bass. It's kind of the only thing going on, as you can see. The rest just kind of leave. Same with the main lead. So instead, this bass patch I made for the original remix, that super old one. As you can see, it's Serum 1, so it's super old. But honestly, I don't really know what's going on here. It looks like it's a saw wave with another saw wave on a different phase, and then bunch of distortion. And a comb filter. And it's supposed to be playing this melody of like da 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 da, but it's so low with so much distortion, it ends up just making these crazy sounds. And a lot of that's because the comb filter, it's really like resonating certain frequencies. It just kind of sounds like one note playing, but going through a whole bunch of different timbres. And that's on top of the sub. That's actually doing, you know, the melody. And there's another layer up here, this sort of lead synth. This is left over from the old remix again, but it's just kind of used as a background layer here. You can probably, if you really listen, pick it out now you've heard it, but it's not super noticeable, just kind of, again, fills it out. What I really love about this second part is the ending, because it's got this fill to transition into the sort of verse section, and I think it's really neat. So all the drums are kind of doing a little transition fill. But the main portion of that is this break fill sample, which sort of replaces all the synths, all the melodic content, and it's, I believe it's just like a rendered out section from like the old remix, and it's got a flanger on it, so without that, it just sounds like... I think flangers they're underutilized, like, they sound awful, unless you use it, like, very specifically, which I guess is kind of all things, but... And it just makes a lot of movement that really kind of, you know, pushes it along into the next section. Oh yeah, we got the bass boom. That thing from the intro is also kind of here throughout the drop. It's just, you know, small. Then for the next section... It's very, very simple. We've got the drums from the original song. That same thing that was going on in the intro over here, and then a little breakbeat loop on top of it. Just a whole bunch of noise effects, kind of transitioning us out of that. And ambience again. We've got little drum fills kind of sprinkled out throughout this section. And the vocal chops. The main thing going on here really is we've got the sub back, just doing a little bass line. The smooth sauce, which, you know, it's just a super saw doing chord stacks. And filtering in. Yeah, then that just goes right into the second build-up. We've got the sub goes out with the bass boom again. We add more layers to the vocal chops, create more tension. We've got this new funky breakbeat layer coming in. Yeah, the turn up the bass vocal chops are coming back. Except this time, we got a different pre-drop vocal. Instead of you can see I've got the normal one here, just disabled.
Turn up the bass line, keep it going.
But instead, because we're doing a genre switch up, I decided to switch up the pre-drop too to make it more interesting. So we got the...
Here we go.
There's also, actually, forgot to mention, during this build-up section, we've got a clock ticking. With a lot of reverb, very washed out, very pushed to the back. That's just there to, again, add tension. You know, that's one of the main things I try to focus on when producing is the concept of tension and release. So I'm kind of doing as much as I can here to build tension. We've got, you know, the very rhythmic vocal drop, pushing it along, the clock tick. We've got this constant snare build. That's just, it's just doing, what is that? 16th notes. That's just doing 16th notes. Driving it up, getting filtered in. And we've also got this original bass. This is the bass stem from the original project, believe it or not. But that's sort of being filtered in here. And also getting washed out. And then here we've got that sort of lead pluck stem from before. And that's just doing, it's sort of mimicking the melody of, you know, the lead synth from the drop. We've got this big pluck. That's turned all the way down for some reason. Okay, interesting. And the grit lead, which it's straight up the lead. Super washed out. Just kind of teasing the drop to the build-up. And then I think this is really cool what happens here in the sort of pre-drop. Where it just kind of like fades in, all the reverb goes away. It's all the filters go away. And that on top of the bass boom just makes for a really big moment, I feel like. And then we get the drop. So this is actually using a lot of the same layers as the original drop. The main things that actually change around is the drums. Because we're going from, you know, bass house, electro house to like hybrid trap kind of type deal. So like the first drop was... For the second drop, I completely replaced the snare and the drums were a lot slower. So I used a lot of different samples for this, but... Instead opting for more of a, just a very rhythmic ride cymbals, just kind of pushing it along. Just we've got a little bit of shaker loops down here. Adding a little bit of, you know, rhythmic complexity. And then the kick. It's the exact same kick from the beginning, but you can see I'm automating in this trap mode, which as you can see is just the mix on this EQ, which just filters the kick into something more trap appropriate. And this snare is 3 snares. We got the metal snare, which is, it's just this very like metallic snare, just completely washed out. We got a big snare, just kind of like a fat dubstep snare, and then the metal snare light is this other metallic snare, and yeah, together we get that, because I really wanted the just like fat deepness of the dubstep snare, but I think for trap, having a very like tonal, high-end, heavy snare does a lot, so I combined them, and you know, there you have it. And then, of course, just little drum fills everywhere. I really love this little bit I did here where everything sort of cuts out and we just get this like really fast kick roll, just slowing and bringing us back into the normal rhythm. And that's just, you know, it's just a bunch of kicks. Yeah, and then same deal, just lots of like noise effects and vocal chops, a lot of ambient stuff to fill out the sound. And now for the main thing. So we got their sub bass. This is a new pattern here. And on top of that sub bass, I've got this 808 that's, well, honestly don't even really know how much this counts as an 808, but it's kind of doing it. And that's just playing the same thing as a sub right on top of it. You've got the whoop wooms back. With the reverb throw is now a lot longer on this because we're in halftime. So now kind of the first 2 beats are the little punctuation for the phrase. You've got the fuzzy bass here to just kind of complement. It's doing the same patterns as the sub and the 808, but coming in and out with the tone moving around. Got that little sauce layer from before. Just barely there. And then for the main event, the grit lead, you know, that double lead from before. Now doing this little crazy melody with a lot of automation, just moving the sound around. And again, we're sort of going for this like call and response, AB, 8B type structure for the drop. So it's got this first part with the very high. Just doing this like half step back and forth melody. And then for the second part, it's more drawn out legato notes, kind of like what the A section was for the first drop. And so we have, you know, just different synths coming in at different times. Oh yeah, and also the main lead also has just like a bunch of reverb on it now because I wanted this drop to be super spacey and just feel like huge, I guess taking up the whole room, you know? And then, yeah, something really interesting happens here. This drop transitions directly into an electro house drop, and I actually found that really hard to pull off smoothly because it's like, this is halftime, it's going back into full time, and it's just like a very different structure, and I think I'm honestly really, really happy with how I pulled that off. So obviously for like the duration of this second drop, you can see the lead melody is kind of steadily climbing. Like we've got it kind of going up here, going up more here, staying there, and then going up even more at the end. And then at the end, I kind of just used a pitch bend to sort of, you know, use tension to a little build-up kind of action. Yeah, so at the end here, it's just getting the leads getting pitched up, creating tension, kind of rising us up into the next section, and it's getting washed out with reverb that stays, so you can kind of hear it tail off in the next section. And that reverb tail is so important for kind of gluing the sections together. I guess this is sort of a technique I've been doing a lot, but just if I want to kind of glue 2 sections together through the transition, if you kind of let the elements that are leaving between the sections tail out into the next one, instead of just cutting them out, just like do like a little reverb throw on them or delay or something, just let them kind of fade out into the next section, it's going to do a lot for that transition. There's also a lot of like drum work and stuff going on here, so we just bring all our drums in. So here I kind of wanted to transition from the trap drums into the house drums within this like, you know, 4-bar transition right here. So just kind of smoothly instead of having just kind of like an instant rhythm change. So I just start bringing in the snare and the kick on each beat, and and there's like a billion drum fills going on at the same time. You know, and on top of all this, it's just kind of one giant, huge drum fill going on right here. Just and since we're going into that sort of pick snare on each beat rhythm, it goes perfectly into the 4 on the floor beat right after it. And then, you know, just like a few little risers and effects going on here, just kind of pushing that transition. The little here we go comes back.
Here we go.
And then the last drop coming in with just a kick. And, you know, I built all this tension during that transition. If it went just right into the drop, I think it wouldn't be as satisfying. So instead, we got like just this. Yeah, I do this a lot. It's just the kick and everything else is gone. And then it comes back in on beat 2. And that just kind of holds that tension for just a tiny bit longer. But like, it's enough to just make a lot of impact when it all comes kind of rushing back in. Especially because with just the kick, you're really hearing that reverb tail of the lead from before. So that's cool. And this last drop, it's kind of just all the same elements as the first drop. It really is. It's the same drums with the addition of now we're adding in those shakers that came in during the trap drop. A lot more noise and ambience going on. But the main difference is that now all of our bass synths are playing long sustained notes, and it's just kind of doing this, you know, it's doing the chord progression of the song. With some super saws on top now. Very, very heavily distorted, but I like that sound a lot. Crunchy saws. And you'll see that thing I did with just the kick on the first beat, it all coming back on beat 2. I do it again right here. And at this point, it sort of just establishes a pattern and kind of makes it feel more cohesive that way. So for the second part, second half, same as the first half, but now we bring in, you know, our main lead. And this is, I'm so happy with this. Like, come on, you know? It's just building. Like, this is almost a straight line just going up. And that, I don't know, does a lot. You know, it's almost like using the lead as a riser to just build tension throughout the drop and then finally kind of release it all at the end with the outro. You know, it's a drop that just gets bigger and better and too much for Mr. Incredible as it goes, you know? And yeah, I mean, let's just play this out because this last part is awesome. I love this so much. I think a big part of this is also that, so throughout this first part, we've had, you know, this lead playing that top line, and now we're bringing in a second one, but it's doing sort of a harmony at first. Here, and I can show you. So we grab this, and let's put it there. So you can see, you know, it's up there. This first bit's just kind of harmonizing with it. And then over here, it matches the notes for these two. So you get sort of that like cohesion, the sound, like the timbres melt together and you get sort of a different sound right here. And then it goes back to harmonizing, but now instead of being below the melody, it's above. And so you get like basically these two, like this horizontal line of a melody and this diagonal line of a melody intersecting. And there's probably like words and terms for what's going on, but the point of the matter is it sounds awesome. And then finally we just got our outro section. It's the same drums, we just took a few of them away and replaced everything with just the Reese and that harmony lead from the intro. And then taking it all away again, even less elements here. That clock ticking from the build-up is back, and that harmony is kind of fading out until we're left with just the Reese at the end, and it all ends on just a kick. Again, continuing that rhythmic pattern of having the first beat be just the kick and everything else comes in on beat 2. But this time we've got sort of this one note from that main melody doing a reverb throw. Just again, kind of tying the sections together, letting that fade out, but we keep bringing it back just softer each time, you know, so. It's sort of doing that thing I said before with like fading it out into the next section, but just like more gradual, more interestingly. Yeah, and so it also sort of mimics over here when this drop first came in. That first beat right here had, you know, just the reverb throw from that lead, and now we're kind of doing that again here. And then just little, you know, vocal chops pushing us through the outro. And that's about it. That's the song. All the stuff over here, that's left over from the old remix. It's just like... Yeah, it sounds weird now because I replaced all the synths, but like, so ignore that. But that's it. That's the song. I guess one last thing is that like on my master I've got Ozone here that's doing some mid-side EQ, but also the stereo imaging tab, which I'm actually automating during the build-ups. I'm bringing the width down and then back up for the drop. So it gets more mono, less stereo during the build-up, and then it gets wide again right at the drop, and you know, that's just more of that tension and release stuff. You can see even the whole thing is not really that wide during the drop. I did a lot of work trying to tame it down. I usually tend to use way too much stereo and it gets stuff all over the place. It sounds big and wide, but it gets messy. And then just a limiter, newfangled saturate, a lot of drive, just pushing and getting those luffs I believe we're hitting. Like... yeah, -6? -5. Let's go. And Fox's Den, if you're watching this is a personal call out, okay? This is EDM. We want -5 luffs. -14 is for normie music, okay? Bass music needs to be loud. Okay. Anyways, yeah, that was the remix. More coming soon. My goal is to get a 7-11 track out every month, which gives me about 2 weeks to finish the next one. So we'll see if I can do that. But this is going to be my year for 7-11. More ANZE tracks coming, hopefully. There is at least one in the works right now to come out soon. There's a whole album, but that's not soon. Probably next year. So for those of you who made it to the end, this is your exclusive preview of the next ANZE song coming eventually. This year, for sure. Yeah, this is what's next for ANZE. Remember, the pretty melodic, emotional music. So yeah, here it is. And that's all you get. Not mixed, not mastered, very rough demo, but there it is. Goodbye.